Welcome, everyone. The Board of Education meeting is called to order. Welcome. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome, colleagues. Thank you. Secretary Torres, please take roll.
It looks like all board members are present this evening.
Thank you, Secretary Torres. Colleagues, moving on now to the approval of tonight's agenda. Unless there are objections, tonight's agenda will be approved as printed. Okay. Excellent. Colleagues, we're now going to move on to public comments on action items. So those are things that we'll be voting on this evening. There are no green cards for action items. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board tonight on things we will be voting on? Okay. Thank you. Colleagues, consent agenda. Unless there are objections, tonight's consent agenda is approved as presented. Okay. Member Sutherland?
Is the modification for B in the record? Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Moving on now to new business. Secretary Torres, please.
Superintendent's recommendation. Superintendent's recommendation 14-24-25 relative to administrative appointments. Yep. Superintendent's recommendation 14-24-25, administrative appointments. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following administrative appointment. Provost Matt, Principal at Donaldson Hills Elementary School, 100% administrator contract, effective date August 16th, 2024. I so move.
Support.
Thank you, colleagues. The motion has been moved and supported. Any comments or questions here? Very good. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion carries 7-0, and we're going to turn it over to Interim Superintendent Holly.
All right. I'd like to bring Matt up to the podium. He'll be up there at the big stage. We had an extensive search for our elementary principal position over at Donaldson. Ann Cruz has big shoes to fill, and I'm pleased to announce that through that extensive search, we found Matt. He has some very unique skills, and I believe that he is ready to embrace this community and understand how wonderful it is to be in Waterford. So I'm going to let him speak a little bit.
Thank you very much. I am very excited to join the Donaldson Hills family and Waterford School District. I am intensely passionate about providing the best educational environment for students and helping them grow socially, emotionally, and academically. So I'm ready to hit the ground running. I just finished up in my previous district today, so I'm ready to start tomorrow at Donaldson Hills and work with the staff and the students and the families to make this a really great school year. So.
Well, Matt, welcome. We're very glad you're here. Welcome. Colleagues, do we have any questions for Principal Provost? Yes, Member Sutherland, please.
Not a question, just want to welcome you with open arms. Waterford School District is an amazing place to work, to grow, and to embrace the community of Donaldson and the entire school district. We are so delighted to have you. We welcome you, and I'm just tickled to have, I know that Ann Cruz has been incredible over there, and I can tell from you calling family and precision on learning and all of the words that you're using, that you have that same mindset for our students. So we're thrilled to have you. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Donaldson Hills is a pretty special place. My wife worked there for a really long time. My mom retired from Donaldson Hills, so it's a wonderful place, and we're happy to have you join that team and that family. It's pretty
I just wanted to add as well, yeah, happy to have you. Credentials were excellent. We had an opportunity to see your resume and all your credentialing and information. Just hearing you here tonight using the word passion, I really like to hear that. So we're excited to have you aboard.
Thank you.
Well, welcome again, and we tell all of our administrators, don't be strangers, come back and see us.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Okay. Secretary Torres?
Superintendent's recommendation 15-24-25, honor health agreement. It's recommended that the Board of Education, that the board approve the attached agreement with Honor Health to operate the health centers at Durant, Mason, and Children's Village. It is also recommended that the board approve the board president and the interim superintendent to sign the agreement on behalf of the board. I so move.
Support.
Thank you, colleagues. Motion's been moved and supported. Any comments or questions, please? All right, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, excellent. Colleagues, that takes us to the end of new business. And as everyone here knows, we are starting tonight. So tonight, we're kicking off our superintendent search with our partners from MASB. So we're going to spend some time going over and doing some planning for our superintendent search before we move into our superintendent evaluation and training, which is mandated by law to be done before September 1st. So, colleagues, I'd like to welcome Mr. Jay Bennett from MASB. Some of us might know him. And he's here to facilitate our session here on conducting our search. So, Mr. Bennett, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all. In front of you is a copy of this PowerPoint presentation that we'll be going through. I also emailed you earlier last week, I believe, a copy of a proposed calendar, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I also gave you a copy of a salary comparison that I did that we'll also get into in just a little bit. At any point throughout this, if you have any questions, please feel free to interject for sure. So what we're talking about tonight is just kind of a quick overview of the search process, clarifying my role in this process, talking about a timeline for the search. We're hoping to come out of this tonight with a detailed timeline, a little bit of a preliminary posting, and then a salary range. So our agenda will overview the search process, we'll clarify roles, we'll talk about the qualifications of a superintendent, we'll talk about a calendar, and we'll talk about a preliminary posting. So we're looking at roughly a 13 to 14 week process. First several weeks of that is preparation, which is kind of what we're in right now, what we're starting tonight. Then we get into recruitment, the interview, and then the decision. And then, of course, ongoing support after the search. Remembering that throughout this entire search, we're going to follow the Open Meetings Act. All meetings of a public body shall be open to the public. All decisions of a public body shall be made at a meeting open to the public, and all deliberations of a public body constituting a quorum of its members shall take place at a meeting open to the public. Everything that we do in this search is going to be in an open session. There are two possible exceptions, and those two exceptions are as follows. If you decide that you want to perform or have any behavioral testing done of your applicants, we can talk about the results of that behavioral testing in a closed session, because that is considered to be privileged health-related information. So if we decide to go that route with any of our applicants, we can talk about that information in a closed session. If we have a number of internal candidates, and I don't believe that we can have a discussion about those internal candidates without inadvertently outing them as candidates, then we may go into closed session just to discuss the internal candidates. No decisions are made, We come back out in open session, we continue discussing the rest of the candidates, and then as a board, you decide who you want to move forward into the applicant phase. So those would be the only two reasons that I would take you into closed session during this search. And before we go into closed session, I will make it very clear as to why I'm requesting that we consider that closed session. Everything else is happening just like this in an open session. So what does a search firm do during this preparation phase? So I prepared a timeline, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I prepared some salary comps. I provided those to you as well. I've drafted a preliminary posting. I'm going to work with your communications director to kind of give me some additional information on the district and on the township so we can make sure that that makes it into the posting. I have all of your district information that I need. That's already in the posting. I have all of your offices already in the posting. And so once we get the timeline finalized, then I'll add that to the posting. And then once I get the information from your communications director, we'll add that to the posting. The hope is to have this posting up sometime next week. So sometime next week, I'll have an opportunity for you to take a quick look at it. I'll send you an email of the posting so you can just kind of get your eyes on it. Give me any feedback. I'll take that feedback, finalize it, and then hope to get this posting up and running sometime next week. Okay? I will facilitate stakeholder input. I'll create an online survey, and then we'll continue to promote the opening. So what is the board responsibility during this preparation phase? Well, you'll approve the timeline in the process. You'll set that salary range. You'll approve the preliminary posting. You'll identify the groups that you want to make sure it's important that I talk to. You'll promote those stakeholder sessions, and then you'll communicate the process through your normal modes of communication. So your Facebook pages, your district Facebook pages, your Twitter, whatever it is, and then, you know, when people call you and email you and ask you questions about the search, you can answer those. Always feel free to just refer everything back to me as well. So if you're not comfortable, if you're not completely certain, then just say, you know what, here, reach out to Jay. Give him my email, give him my phone, that's all fine. Same thing with the district. If anybody calls the district, redirect them right back to me, okay? The district shouldn't feel the need to answer any questions above and beyond, you know, meeting times and things of that nature. If district is unsure, send them right back my way. What does the district do during this? Posting of the meetings, posting of the preliminary posting on your district website, arranging and promoting those stakeholder feedback sessions, promoting the online survey, and then promoting the opening as well. Then we get into recruitment. That's our next phase. During this phase, I'll be compiling and presenting input to the board. I'll draft that selection criteria. We'll post that selection criteria. We'll continue to promote the opening. We'll collect applications, recruit candidates, research candidates. During this recruitment phase, the board, you'll consider that stakeholder input, the survey results and the face-to-face results. You'll revise and approve that selection criteria. You'll start working on contract language. It's really nice if we have a contract ready to go even before we get down to our finalists so that we can present it to our finalists so our finalists know what the contract looks like, they know what the salary is going to look like, so then the applicants are going in and those finalists are going in with their eyes wide open. And once you have decided on your final candidate, they've already had an opportunity to take a look at the contract, and so you're all in good shape. If anybody reaches out to you with questions about this firm or about this search, please, back to me. If you specifically have someone that you'd like me to reach out to, if there's someone that you know, someone that maybe used to be an employee in the district, has moved on to another district, boy, you'd sure like to see them come back as your next superintendent, just send me those names. I'll reach out to those people and I'll just say, hey, you know what? Somebody in the district, a board member in the district, a principal in the district, a teacher in the district, a parent in the district said they'd love to see you apply for this job, so I'm just letting you know, right? So if you have those names, please, please, please direct them my way. And then again, just continue to communicate the process to your constituents. What does the district do during this? Again, the district is posting the meetings, posting the selection criteria, promoting the opening, and then making sure to direct any candidates that may call the district. Sorry, I can't help you, but please call Jay. He'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. A little bit about qualifications. So a superintendent must hold a valid administrative certification issued by MDE. They must accumulate 150 hours of professional learning every 5 years in order to continue their certification. They must be hired, if you decide to hire someone that doesn't have certification, why would you do that? Well, there's a couple scenarios in which you may hire someone that doesn't have certification. You may hire somebody who has a lapsed certification. So maybe someone that has previously retired, has decided that, you know what, I retired young, I want to get back in this. They don't have a current certification. You can hire that person. There's a process that they'll need to go through in order to re-up their certification, so that's one possibility. An out-of-state applicant, someone that may have a certification in another state but doesn't have a Michigan certification. So again, there's a process for them getting that Michigan certification. You just have to make sure they start working on that process as soon as you hire them. The other possibility is hiring somebody that isn't coming from the traditional K-12 public education system. So if you hired a bank president, someone from maybe the college, maybe someone from Oakland University, they started their career as a K-12 teacher, they became a K-12 administrator, and then they started working at Oakland, and next thing you know, they're an administrator at Oakland, they're out of K-12, but they're looking to get back to K-12. So if that is the route that you decide to go, then that is somebody that you could hire. Again, they would have to go through that process of getting that certification. So those are the three most likely scenarios in which you would hire someone that doesn't have a certification. So if that does happen, then you have to have someone with your district get into the MOEX system, and in that system, they will have to then put down the rationale for hiring that non-certified person. So why did you hire someone that doesn't have the certification? Well, they have an out-of-state certification, they were the best applicant, that's why we went that route. They're retired, they were the best applicant, they don't have a current certification, whatever it is. You have to verify that they possess at least a bachelor's degree, and then we can also have to make sure that they have a mentor. So we'll assign them a mentor, might be someone from the ISD, another local superintendent that's willing to take on that role. We have to make sure that they get that mentor. They have to begin the process of getting that administrator certification within 6 months, and then they have 3 years in which to complete that. Some of the things we'll be looking for in our applicants, we'll be looking for evidence that they have that education background and some of those advanced degrees, EDS, EDD, PhD. That they have some professional development specific to school superintendency. They've been through some programs like the Horizons program with MASA or the Leadership Institute through MLI, or they've done some advanced coursework in education or administration. Looking for somebody that has a history of district-wide responsibilities. If we're hiring somebody or considering somebody that has never been a superintendent, then what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for evidence that they have done things in their past work experiences that are similar to being a superintendent. They've been responsible for a building budget, say if they were a high school principal or elementary school principal. They sat in on the negotiating team. They were part of that negotiations team, right? They were responsible for the physical plant of whatever building it is that they were an administrator of. Very similar things that we would expect of our superintendent. We want to see that background in those candidates that have not been a superintendent. If they've been a superintendent, then we're looking for that experience in administration, hopefully in districts similar to ours, most likely someone from a district that probably is smaller than yours, looking to move into a larger district, but maybe it's a smaller district within your county. Maybe it's a smaller district that's not too far from here. So they're familiar with the area, they're familiar with the district, and they're looking to move into a larger district, more responsibility, things of that nature. So during the interview phase, the search firm is going to screen the candidates according to your search criteria. We're going to look through the search criteria, screen the candidates. Every successful application that enters our system is going to be an application that you're going to see. And when I say successful application, that means that they filled out all the requisite application information, they've submitted a resume, they've submitted a cover letter, they've submitted 3 letters of reference, they've hit that submit button, they become a successful applicant, you're going to see it. I'm not holding anything back. If there's 25 applicants, you're going to see all 25, okay? What I will do is I will look through all of those 25 applicants' materials. I will look at that selection criteria that you've set, and I'll say, okay, so based on the selection criteria, based on their job experiences, these are the ones that most closely match what it is that you say you're looking for. And I'll probably break it into 2 tiers. The top tier will be those that most closely match what you say you're looking for. The bottom tier will be those that don't quite get there. Maybe they only have 1 or 2 years of administrative experience, and you said you'd like to have 3 to 5, okay? Maybe they've only ever been an elementary school principal, and boy, you'd really like to see someone that has been a principal at multiple levels or has been a principal and does have some central office experience as well. So however that selection criteria comes out, that will help kind of filter out some of the candidates that maybe don't quite match what you're looking for. But you're still going to see all those applications. And one of those applications may not necessarily meet all of your selection criteria, but there may be something about that applicant that you really want to explore in an interview. And so if a majority of the board decides that that's someone they want to bring forth for an interview, then we can do that, okay? But again, you're going to see all of it, all right? I'll help you facilitate that winnowing process as we talked about, breaking into the tiers. We'll do some criminal background checks. We'll help assist the board in putting together the interview and the interview questions. I'll notify candidates that they've been selected for an interview, and then we'll collect community input during those interviews. Your role during this interview process is to review the resumes, identify the candidates that you as a board would like to interview. We're firming up that contract language. We'll prepare for those first round interviews. You'll conduct the interviews, and then you'll also consider the community input that we've collected on those interviews. The district is going to help out by ensuring confidentiality, posting of the meetings, requesting those unprofessional conduct checks, managing facility logistics, so make sure that we have an appropriate space in which to do the interviews, copying and distributing the community input forms to the board members. So if we decide that we're going to do the interviews here, this would be fantastic for interviews, right? Applicant sits here, you sit there, audience is here, this would work. If we decide to do it somewhere else, that's fine. We just need to make sure that it's going to be appropriate for that process, okay? And we can discuss that, and then up to the district to make sure that there's availability for whatever site we decide to go with. During this process, I'm asking that you as board members refrain from checking out candidates until they've actually accepted an interview. During this initial selection of candidates, I want you to rely on the paper that you've got in front of you, or in this case, the digital access that you're going to have. You will be granted access to our online application system. You will go into the online application system and you will see the applications for all of the candidates that have been successful in applying for the job. I want you to stick to that. I want you to refrain from digging in too deep, because what I don't want you to do is develop any kind of bias to any of these candidates because of something that you saw or something that you heard. I want you to stick to just what you have in front of you, their resume, their cover letter, their letters of reference, all of the job experiences that they've had. Trust that I have gone through and vetted all of these candidates to some extent. I've made calls on the candidates that I don't know. I've talked to just about everyone, if not every one of the applicants at some point during the process. I've checked with my other search consultants. I've looked at what other searches they've been in. Because I monitor every search that we as an association does, I have a pretty good idea of the applicants that are going to come in. I've probably seen them in other searches. I probably know who they are. I've reached out to some of them already. I've had conversations with potential applicants this week. So, you know, they know this is something that's going to be posted. They're starting to have questions and they're starting to call me and ask me already. So the word is out, which is good. That's all good stuff. All right, so during the second phase of the interview, I will help facilitate the identification of your finalists. We'll notify those candidates. I'll help you with that interview prep again. We'll collect that community input on the interviews and on the questions, and then we'll have those site visits and open houses if we want to. We can talk more about that as we get closer to that. As a board, you're going to identify those finalists. You're going to share that draft contract language. The ideal is to take your, 25 to 30 applicants, right? I'm going to be optimistic here, and narrow that down to around 5 to 6, and then take those 5 to 6 and get it down to 2. And then those 2 finalists are going to be the ones that you bring in for that final round. You present the contract to, have those final round interviews, and then hopefully come out of that with the applicant that you'd like to move forward as your next superintendent. So you'll conduct the interviews, you'll consider the community questions, you'll consider the community input on the interviews. During the second round of interviews, we'll have an opportunity for members of the community to submit questions. We'll have a little form they can fill out. I'll collect those forms, I'll present those to the board president, and then depending on time, obviously if you get 25, you probably won't be able to ask 25 questions, but you can go through some of those questions and ask a couple of those questions that are submitted by your community. The community will have an opportunity after every interview to fill out an input form. Those input forms are all copied. You each get a packet of all those input forms, and you can read through those input forms and get an idea as to how your community felt those interviews went, okay? The district during this interview phase, part 2, is going to post the meetings, post the press releases, manage the facility logistics again, and then run those copies for you. Once we get down to who we're going to select for interviews, then we can start to research the candidates, and if you find anything, just let me know, right? You see a story, you hear something, you're not quite sure what to make of this, just let me hear it, okay? There's very few things that I haven't seen or heard during this process. I can almost guarantee that as soon as the 5 or 6 names are released to the applicants that you're going to interview, you're going to start to get phone calls and emails. I know somebody who knows somebody who worked with that person, and they're fantastic. I know somebody who knows somebody who worked with that person, and you should stay way far away from them. You've got to take all that stuff with a grain of salt, right? I want you to listen to that. I want you to thank them for informing you of that. If it's really something that you think is something I should know, then please get that to me, and I'll vet it out to my, to the best of my ability. I can think of a situation in which I had a board member come to me. They said, hey, I heard the candidate did X, Y, Z. And I said, all right, let me check it out. Called everybody I could think of, called their references, called their current administrator, and I said, did this happen? I could get nobody to corroborate that X, Y, Z happened. And so I just went back to that board member and I said, I couldn't find anybody that could corroborate that story. So you're gonna have to just take it as it is, right? Because I could find no one that said, yes, that absolutely happened. So, you're gonna get stuff like that. If I hear things like that, I'm gonna share them with you, let you know this is what I'm hearing. You will get emails from their previous board members, you'll get emails from their previous administrators, you'll get emails from parents that lived in that district when they were a building principal, all that kind of stuff. It'll definitely come out. There will be no shortage of input, I can promise that. All right, so during this decision-making phase, I will make myself available to answer your questions and I'll help you facilitate, but this is at the end of the night, this is a board decision. This isn't MASB's decision, this isn't Jay's decision, this is your decision as a Board of Education. You've been elected to serve as board members, and one of the most important duties that you have as a board member is the hiring of a superintendent. That lies solely with the 7 of you, okay? This isn't Hoosiers, we don't vote on who the basketball coach is, that's not how this works. So this is up to you as board members. I will be more than happy to answer your questions and help facilitate that process, but at the end of the night, I have no dog in this fight. Okay, during the decision-making process, you as a board are gonna decide on that candidate that you're gonna offer that position, contingent upon negotiation, and then you'll start those contract negotiations. Another reason that it's nice to have those contracts ahead of time ready to go. The district will post meetings, post press releases, and work with HR on your onboarding process. Making sure that your district engages in that onboarding process just like any other employee. You're gonna do the background checks, you're gonna do the misconduct checks, you're gonna do everything that you would do for any other employee, you're gonna do for the superintendent. Even though we're gonna run our checks, you're gonna run your checks as well, okay? Because we're gonna make sure that we run everything that we can for this. Stakeholder engagement. So we'll start with an online survey. So I'll put together an online survey, I'll get that off to Megan, and then Megan can share it with the district and send it out in email, put it on the Facebook, the Twitter, the X, whatever we're doing these days. Face-to-face focus groups. So when we get to the timeline in a few minutes, you'll see that Megan already set up the focus groups for me. It's fantastic. I was just blown away by that. Opportunity for those feedback forms at the first round and second round interviews like we talked about, and then that opportunity to suggest those interview questions. During the support phase, after the search is completed, I'm always around for your questions. We have a successful superintendent transition workshop that we'll put together for you probably somewhere 3 to 6 months down the road after your superintendent starts. And then I will continue to check in with your new superintendent periodically. During the support phase, as a board, you're going to develop a plan to onboard your new superintendent. You're going to participate in that workshop that we talked about. You'll work to establish some first-year expectations for your new superintendent. And you, as a board, are going to want to check in with your new superintendent periodically as well. The superintendent, what do they do during this support phase? Well, they're going to take an active part in their onboarding process. They're going to schedule that workshop. They're going to work with the board to establish those goals. And they're going to reach out to the board association and their own association for additional support as needed. So those stakeholder groups are usually consisted of your staff, your parents, and your community. Timeline. Okay. Let's take a look at this timeline that I put together for you all. You'll see that it starts with, does anyone need a copy? By the way, I've got some here with me if you don't have a copy of it. You're good? Okay. So August 15th, that's tonight. That's what we're talking about right now. And then you'll see there during the weeks of September 2nd and 9th, Megan has already put together on Wednesday, September 4th, a meeting with your cabinet, non-instructional administration, support staff, and then a community meeting on September 4th. Then on Tuesday, September 10th, instructional administration, community at noon, union leadership, secondary teachers, elementary teachers, and then a community partners on that night on the 10th. All of those scheduled to take place at the Prairie campus in Michigan, or in Waterford, Michigan. So I'll put together a press release with all that information, get that out to Megan so she can distribute that press release. Any questions or concerns with the stakeholder face-to-face group meetings there? Those all look good for you? Okay. The survey then I would close on September 13th. I like to close it a little bit after we've done those face-to-face meetings because I find that after those face-to-face meetings, I start to see my survey results start to tick up because they've talked to people, hey, I went to that meeting the other night, have you filled out the survey? Have you filled out the survey? And so it's kind of a last dash effort to get some survey results there. So we close it on September 13th. Now this board workshop, I had originally scheduled it for the 19th, which is during your regularly scheduled board meeting. Megan had said that maybe we want to consider the 17th. I know in my original materials it has 75 minutes. It doesn't generally take 75 minutes. It's basically about 10, 15 minutes of me breaking down the survey information and the face-to-face information for you. I'll have a mock selection criteria set up, and so we'll just pretty much go through that, make sure that that meets your needs and expectations, and that's going to be based on the survey results and what I was hearing in the face-to-face meetings. So there's really not going to be any surprises to that. And all I'm asking for is just, you know, some final words from you on that, and once you approve it, then it gets attached to the posting. So it's up to you if you want to squeeze it in on your September 19th meeting, or if you'd like to do a separate meeting just for that. What are your thoughts? Colleagues?
And I feel like maybe a separate meeting might be better, not knowing what our agenda is that night. And, you know, out of fairness to our administrators or staff, we don't want to hold a 4 to 5 hour meeting.
Sure.
And having this on top of it. I don't know, what does everyone feel about that?
I like to kind of mess up one night.
I'm okay either way, whatever.
I'm okay either way as well.
I'm okay either way. But I do have a question in regards to, Jay, just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, for at that meeting, when we're talking about developing the selection criteria, that is a board member discussion of specific things we are looking for in the next superintendent based upon our beliefs and the survey results that you were going to present to us that evening.
Correct.
Okay, and how long is a normal?
It's usually 45 minutes to an hour. It really just kind of depends, because when I put the selection criteria together, I'm going to look through your survey results, and the things that come out at the top of the survey results, that's what I'm going to put into the selection criteria. And so it's basically just you kind of confirming that I'm on the right track and that I'm hitting the ones that you want to hit. If you see something that maybe doesn't quite make the top 10 in the survey, but you still think is important, then that's an opportunity for you to say, you know what, this one didn't quite hit on the top 10, but as a board, we really think it's important, so let's make sure we get it in there. So that's pretty much what it is. But I'll have something mocked up ready for you to go, and it's basically just kind of confirming that that looks good, and then anything that you want to make sure that we add or emphasize, you know, maybe a little bit of wordsmithing, hopefully not get too deep into the weeds on it, but, you know.
Thank you.
I do think all of these questions are really important, and we as a board don't have a stakeholder input meeting per se. We're gleaning all of the information that comes from all these other stakeholder input, but we do have an opportunity once we see all of these surveys results, and this is our opportunity. So
That's your opportunity, absolutely.
I'm feeling like we don't want to rush that process, and I don't want to, you know.
Sure.
So I guess I'm kind of, sorry, Rob. I'm kind of feeling. That's right. I'm personally kind of feeling like we don't want to have to rush the selection criteria and going over their surveys and making sure we understand what our community and our staff and our teachers and, you know, all of these community stakeholders is really imperative, I think, for the board to
Absolutely.
be able to digest, so.
All right, so I'm hearing the 17th for a separate meeting? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so preference on timing? 6, 6:30, 7, 5? What are you thinking?
I think if we stay in line with our meetings, that would be helpful.
All right, so 6:30 on the 17th. Perfect. All right, so I had the posting closing on October 1st, which is a Tuesday at 4 o'clock. The reason that we close our postings on Tuesdays is so that if I get anybody that at 3:59 goes to hit submit and their computer blows up or they have a tech issue, then I've got some time to help them through that and get their materials in there. If I close it at 4 o'clock on a Friday, then I'm spending my weekend helping all the applicants try to get their stuff in. So the other thing that this does is by closing it on Tuesday, then by Friday, I can have access for all of you to look at all that information over the weekend and then be ready to come in on October 10th to decide who it is that you'd like to bring in for first round interviews. So October 1st for the closing, you'll get the materials on the 4th, and then October 10th will be a board workshop. Does October 10th work for everybody for a board workshop?
That's a Tuesday?
It's a Thursday.
Yep, I try to stay on the meetings, on the nights you normally have meetings, so, okay. And then we'll do 6:30 on that one as well. Okay. And then first round interviews, I originally had slated for the 22nd and 23rd, but it sounds like the 21st and the 22nd is going to work better for more of you. So 21st and 22nd, that's Monday, Tuesday. Does that work for everybody? Okay. Now for those, we'll start those at 6. So it'll be 6, 7, and 8 on each night. So supposing that we have 6 candidates, we'll do 3 on Monday, 3 on Tuesday. We'll do 6, 7, and 8. There'll be about a 55-minute interview for each, around 17 to 18 questions. All the questions will be the same for all 6 of those candidates, okay?
Just to be clear, so is the 21st and 22nd okay?
21st, 22nd works for everybody? Monday, Tuesday?
Oh. Is that-
That works
is it-
for me, those dates work for me.
Yeah, it works for me. Does it
Okay.
work for you, Rob?
I don't know. My son's getting married at the end of that week, so I don't know what's going on during that week. It's fine.
Well, if not, we can, I mean, should we come up with a tentative date in case?
Might we be able to do it the prior week? Or is that just too much? After October 10th, but prior to the week that Rob's son is getting married?
He's getting married, I know.
Do we have to vote on the timeline tonight?
No, we're not necessarily voting on it. I'm just trying to get an idea so that I can get it in the posting because I want to make sure that I've got the right dates in the posting. We can do the 14th and 15th. If you want to move it up a week. The reason I had that week in there because if we decide on the 10th, that Thursday, then we're basically telling them, letting them know on Thursday that they need to be ready to go Monday.
Yeah,
And
and
so
that's
that's why I had
fair.
that week in there was kind of a buffer so they can make their arrangements and make sure that now, they're going to know the dates ahead of time, but even still, I like to give them, a little bit of time between when I notify them and when the interviews actually happen. So that's why I built that extra week in there.
Maybe if we proceed with the 21st and 22nd in mind, and if we have to make it, if Rob.
Yes, we can make an adjustment.
Okay. All right. So we'll stick with the 21st and 22nd. And then 29th work for the second round?
No,
No.
that's an absolute no for me on that one. I can do the
Okay.
28th or 30th, but I cannot do the 29th.
All right. 28th is fine. 28th? That's Monday? Does October 28th work for everybody then?
I think it should be fine.
Alex, how are we feeling about the 28th?
It works for me.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have those finalist visits on October 28th.
Okay. And the 28th, again, that'll be 6 and 7:15, a little bit longer for the second round interviews, a little more opportunity for you to dig a little deeper, ask some more questions, an opportunity for the community to submit questions as well. So I usually like to give about an hour 10 or so for those interviews. Okay? The other thing that will most likely, if this is something, and we can talk more about this later, but just something to keep in mind, if we were to do any kind of open houses ahead of the interviews, then normally what I would do is on that night of the 28th, I would find a spot somewhere, wherever we end up having the interviews, find 2 rooms, put each of the candidate in a room from, 4 to 5, 4:30 to 5:30, something along those lines, so the community members and staff could come through and just kind of meet and greet and talk to them and ask them questions and things of that nature. And we usually do those on the same day as the interviews because they're already going to be here in town. And then if we wanted to schedule any kind of walkthroughs of the district with the finalists, we would do them on that day as well. Just remembering that that is time that your district staff has to take from their calendar to take them around to the district. This is nothing that a board member can do. This is something that the administrators have to do. So if that is something that you're interested in, we can talk about logistics on that, but just something to keep in mind. The other thing about this timeline that I wanted to talk about, so 2 things. On the recruitment end of it, the nice thing about the way this timeline is set up for all of you is that I will be headed up in September to the Michigan Association of School Administrators Conference up in Traverse City. That's where all the superintendents, assistant superintendents, deputy superintendents get together. So I'll be up there talking about this posting because it's going to be open during that time. So that'll be an opportunity for me to talk to any candidates that are up there that might be interested in this posting. So that'll give me an opportunity to put myself in front of people that are definitely going to be interested in this opportunity. I have the superintendent on site January 1st or earlier if possible. We're ending these interviews at the end of October. It's going to take you some time to get the contract negotiated. So best case scenario, maybe if they're willing, you've got someone ready to go second week of November, right? But there's also the possibility that they may say, you know what, I really need to, stick through the calendar year with my district and let them know that, after holiday break, I'm going to be the next superintendent at Waterford. And so you may just need to, hold on to your interim for just a little bit longer, get yourself through the calendar year there. What I would hate to happen is I would hate for you to lose a really good candidate because they just can't leave until, after the holidays. And, we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to give their district some notice that, by the way, I'm going to be the next superintendent of Waterford. I need to get out of here. So that's the timeline. So good deal there. Any questions about the timeline?
Any questions about timeline?
Okay. Let's take a minute to take a look at the salary comparisons that I put together for you. I'd like to at least get an idea of what you're thinking about related to salary range, again, so that I can get that in the posting.
Jay, are these salaries that you compiled, is it because these districts are closest in size to our district and
Close in
staff?
size, close in area, yeah.
Okay, I was just curious that.
Yep, and they're actually fairly similar to the same districts that you looked at when you did this search 5 years ago.
Okay.
It is interesting to me, though, and in fact, I identified the same thing. What was the criteria?
Right.
But we didn't include, like, Clarkston, Huron Valley, West Bloomfield, Wall Lake, those that, right, but why wouldn't we have included those as base? These are ones that I know have higher per pupil foundation allowance, and
Yeah.
it's a little disconcerting to compare ourselves to those that receive a lot more
Yeah.
money from the state than we do.
So some of those districts that you mentioned are significantly larger than you, is one reason. Huron Valley, I think, is Huron Valley? No.
Clarkston and Huron Valley are almost dead in line with us. West Bloomfield's significantly smaller.
For pupil?
Yeah.
Pupil count? Okay. All right, yeah, we can definitely look at some additional districts. The one I really wanted to kind of center in on here was the Lake Orion just recently completed their search. And so if we take a look at what the Lake Orion range was, I thought that'd be a good place to start. So if you give me just a half a second, I will pull that up.
Every single one of them is a 20J.
That's why I'm feeling, I said the same thing, about this comparison.
All right.
Yeah, I would feel better if we were compared to the districts that are more in line with us
No
in
worries.
our
Absolutely.
financials.
Absolutely. So let's do this then. Give me an idea of some of the districts that you like included. So I heard Huron Valley. Clarkston. Okay,
West Bloomfield?
West Bloom.
I mean, West Bloomfield and Walled Lake are both 20 Js, but they're not significantly larger in their per pupil allowance than ours.
Okay, Walled Lake.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, they're bigger, Walled Lake's bigger in size, but
Yeah.
looking at it from the financial standpoint.
Yep.
I mean, Clarkston and Huron Valley were below us, but now we're
Perfect.
equal.
No worries. So this is what we're going to do. So we're going to put a pin in this. I'm going to put together a new comparison for you. I'll
Okay.
include those districts in there for sure. I'll get that to you tomorrow. Okay, absolutely. And take the weekend to kind of look that over, and then get back to me sometime early next week with what you think is appropriate. And then I'll get that added to the posting. And then once we get that preliminary posting with your salary range and the information from your communications director, I'll put that together, get that all to all of you for kind of final, yes, Jay, this looks good. And
Okay.
then we'll get that posted sometime towards the end of next week. That sound good? Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. I
No
appreciate
worries.
it.
This is.
I don't know if
this
you
is
want
what
to
I'm
add
here
one
for.
more, you could
Help me
probably
out.
add Oxford in there too. If you wanted to have the same amount,
Yeah,
if you wanted 5, I mean, I think if we did West Bloomfield, Walled Lake, Clarkston, Huron Valley, and Oxford, I mean, that would give you 5. I mean, you could keep Lake
Okay.
Orion, but
yeah,
I think
Yep.
Oxford might be more significantly.
I can do that. Not
Similar.
a problem at all.
Thank you.
You bet.
Sorry to throw a
No, no.
wrench in your
No,
plans.
that's why we do this.
Okay.
I got to get your
I don't know
input,
if
too.
there's a way that you can do highest and lowest as well, so that we know where we fall in that. in terms
Highest and
of-
lowest.
Of the 28 school districts in Oakland County, where would Waterford be falling given where we're currently at with that salary structure? It'd just be good to know where we fall in that,
I will see what I can do.
if that's possible.
Yeah.
Jay, repeat the timeline that you went a little quick as I was writing it down. So you're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to get us a new comparison
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I'll get you new comparisons tomorrow, so that you can take a look at those. And then if you could get that back to me, Monday or Tuesday with, a range that you think is appropriate. And then I'll continue to work with the district to get your district information and your township information for the posting. I've already got your district logistical information. It's more just the, like your key points of the district, like the things you're most proud of, things like that. And then
Yeah,
I've got your,
How do we determine that as a board?
Yeah, if we,
what the range is. So once I compile those, when I put together that new salary comparison for you, I'll tell you what else I'll do. I'll put that new salary comparison to you. Based on that, I will throw out a range, just kind of give you an idea of what I'm thinking. I will make sure that I include what Lake Orion and Oxford were both recently posted at to give you an idea of what they were looking for. I could even include,
Well, I mean, how?
because we have to deliberate.
so this is not, for the posting, this isn't anything that needs formal board approval. You're just, I don't have to have formal board approval for the posting. You're fine discussing that over email, because that's going to eventually become public knowledge once we put it out there. Everyone will see what it is. So it's nothing, we're not making any decisions there. You're good. We're good.
But the range itself, the low end of the range, we want a low end of the range if it's a first-time superintendent, for example, versus someone with a PhD that has already been a superintendent in another district, for example. So the range is meaningful because we need some flexibility
Yes.
once we identify the candidate.
Absolutely. So if, for instance, whatever the range is, whatever the bottom of the range is, I'm not gonna let you go below that. If we say that the bottom of the range is this, then that's what it is.
Right.
Top of the range, you can always go above and beyond the top of the range if you find somebody that says, well, I need another 10 on top of that. If that's what you as a board decide you wanna do, then, go for it, right? That I'm not gonna discourage you from. But if you set, and I know this is not what's going to be, just for simplicity's sake. If you set it for 100 to 120, I'm not letting you go below 100, but if you want to go above 120, that's completely up to you, right? Your range is not going to be 100 to 120, but like I said, just for simplicity's sake. Okay? Any other questions about the process, the search, the interviews? Yeah, what you got?
Just real quick, on the other, they all have compensation under other, is that a car?
It's usually the FICA.
FICA?
Yeah, it's usually the FICA, because there's, as much as I would like to say that there's a uniform way in which districts report out the salaries and compensation of all employees over $100,000, there's not. There's no consistency. And so they all have it broken out weird. So sometimes the other consists of FICA, sometimes it consists of, just other things they've got in there. If it's listed as annuity, then I'll put it under annuity. If it's listed as retirement, and then it goes on to retirement. But if it's not listed as any of those categories, then it just kind of gets slid into other, and others, generally just the FICA is usually what that is.
But that's where a car would go to if there was a.
If they have a car allowance, it may go in there, but there's also, there's a line in there for
Travel.
travel,
right?
yeah.
But
So
they're
if
all
they had-
zero,
If they had a car allowance, I'd usually put that in travel. We're not seeing a lot of car allowances these days. Most districts have just gone to paying straight mileage. It's cleaner, it's easier. Submit your mileage, we'll pay you the mileage, so. Sometimes there's cell phone allowances. I usually will put that in travel as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Alex, what other questions do we have about the process?
Is it possible and I'm sure you've seen this, and I know that quite a few of our board members have gone through this before, as people start to apply and we start to whittle it down to candidates, how often do candidates just withdraw once they see the final, if there's 6, and when do we post publicly who those finals are? So that the finalists, someone could say, oh, I'm really not sure that I could go up against this person.
So when we have that selection meeting, you'll say, Jay, we want to talk to number 15, number 25, number 17, whatever it is, right? And the numbers are random, they mean nothing. I literally go into Google, give me 25 random numbers between 1 and 50, it spits out, I then put them in next to the applicants' names. So I will then reach out to those applicants that you have said you want to interview. I say to them, okay, the board would like you to interview. Are you accepting this opportunity? If they say yes, okay, thank you. Just to let you know, as soon as I get yeses from, as soon as I know from all the applicants that I've called, I'm going to put together a press release, and that press release is going to go out tomorrow. So if you have anybody that you need to let know that you've just got an interview, then let them know now, because I'm putting out that press release as soon as I get all 6 names, right? So once that press release goes out, then everyone's going to know who those 6 applicants are. Generally, what I will do is, if I have a current sitting superintendent, because it's a little bit different for a current sitting superintendent because they have a board involved, right? If it's a deputy or an assistant or a building principal, it's not as much of a high stakes thing for them to take an interview for a superintendency. For a current sitting superintendent, it's a little bit different because now they've notified their board and their community that I'm looking to go somewhere else, right? So I will usually grant them the courtesy of calling them last and letting them know who else has accepted. And if at that point they decide, you know what, based on that field of applicants, I don't think this is a one that I want to get into, then they will decline. And then nobody knows that that person was an applicant except for the 7 of you, myself, your administrative assistant, my office. But other than that, anyone that they told, but nobody else knows that that person was a candidate because they didn't accept an interview. It's only after they accept an interview that I'm going to release those names.
And is it common that people do tend to withdraw?
Not common.
No?
It happens every now and again, but not usually. Usually they are very excited at the opportunity. And, when I talk to them ahead of time, I'm always, one of the first things I tell them is, don't apply if you're not willing to take an interview. Don't waste your time, don't waste my time, right? Just like I tell boards, don't interview them if you're not ready to give them the job. I don't want you to give courtesy interviews. Only interview those applicants that you're like, you know what? If this is who it is, this is who it is, and this is fantastic. So I want you to interview 6 applicants, 7 applicants, whatever it is, that you think are ready to be the next superintendent at Waterford. I don't want you to interview anyone that you're not ready to give the keys to.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Absolutely.
I see that Lake Orion, new suit at Lake Orion negotiated an annuity. South Lion, is that a new suit over there, or is that a long suit?
South Lion has been there for a little bit. The annuities, again, it's something that, some boards offer their superintendents instead of increases in salary, they give them the annuity. It's still pensionable, and that's the important thing to the superintendents is that it's something that's pensionable. An annuity is part of the pension calculations. So some have them, some don't.
What other questions do we have for Mr. Bennett?
I'll just say that it seems pretty straightforward. This is my 3rd superintendent search, and I think Rob's been through quite a few as well. But it seems pretty straightforward in how we've done it before.
Well, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, Member Sutherland.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Yeah.
At what point, if the community or parents or board members or administrators have someone that they would like to interview, at what point do they bring that name to you? Is it at this, is it
Send
during
me an
the
email tonight.
stakeholders?
I mean, if someone knows tonight that there's someone that they want to interview, send me an email tonight. You know, give me a call. I mean, as soon as they have a name that they want, that they want me to reach out to, you know, I'll take it. So they can email me, they can call me. As soon as we get the posting out there, all that information will be out there. Megan has my contact information, but I'll take, you know, if someone wants to hand me a piece of paper as I walk out the door, I mean, I'll take it. That's fine. I'm ready to go.
But will that be a question that's asked or even talked about during the stakeholder input meetings?
Yeah.
So that, okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, during the stakeholder input meetings, I'll just say flat out, hey, after this, if you're thinking, boy, you know what, that person would be great, yeah, give me their contact information, for sure.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Other comments or questions here, colleagues? Yeah.
Is the, when we take a look at the candidate, is that in closed session when we're going through and looking at all the candidates?
So you'll get
By the
access,
number?
yeah, you'll get access on that Friday, right, before we meet on that following Thursday. So you'll have individual access and be able to look at all the materials. I'll ask you to come to me on that Thursday night meeting with your, you know, your top 6, 7, 8 candidates that you want to talk to, right? I'll poll each of you as a board. So I'll start with John, and John will say, you know what, I'd like to see, you know, 15, 18, 22, whatever it is, right? And I'll put his numbers down in my Excel. And then I'll go to Robin. I'll go all the way down. I'll then tally the numbers that I'm hearing. Generally speaking, most times, you're all going to coalesce around the same 5 or 6 candidates. There may be 1 or 2 that are kind of on the fringe. So we'll take a look at the numbers. And wouldn't you know it, well, these 5 got a majority of board votes. At least 4 or more board members had them in their top list. So definitely those 4, those 5, right? Okay, now we're looking at 6 and 7. Well, I've got 2 here that have gotten 3 votes. All right? Does anyone really want to, you know, push for one of these candidates and move them up into us getting to 6, right? And so we'll have the discussion that way. So that's going to be the discussion. We're trying to protect the anonymity of the candidates, and so I try to limit the discussion because unfortunately it's much too easy to let something slip. Well, you know, what I really liked about her was the fact that she worked in this district really close to us down the street. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're getting to, and so we just want to kind of be as anonymous as possible for this to help guarantee the anonymity of the applicants, because that's what helps us in our ability to, you know, get good applicants. If they know that unless they're selected and accepted an interview, no one's going to know that they applied for the job. I just got together a couple weeks ago with people that do my job in other states. It was my turn to host, so I had them up in Grand Rapids. We get together, we talk about how we all do search in our states. In a state like Texas, they can do all of this in executive, they call it executive session. So basically closed session. They can do everything in closed session. So until they come out of that closed session and say, hey, we've hired a new superintendent, here they are. Nobody knows who applied, nobody knows how many applied, nobody knows who they talked to. All they know is that they have a new superintendent. We can't do that in Michigan. We can't. And in fact, there are even some states that are even more open than us. Florida, it's not uncommon in Florida, Sunshine State, it's not uncommon in Florida to read a newspaper article with every applicant listed and a link to their resume. Like 25 applicants, there's 25 applicants in the newspaper with a link to the resume. And so, you know, we're kind of in between those two. But we still do our best to respect the applicants and only release the names of those that have accepted interviews. If you think of anything else, you know, you get home tonight and you're like, oh, that's what I wanted to ask him. Just shoot me a message, shoot me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email. Yeah.
Sorry, this is actually pertinent. Are there other districts, I know many districts were doing superintendent searches to begin the school year. Are there any that you are aware of in Oakland County or in this?
Nothing significant. Farmington has announced an interim, and they're going to be pushing their decision down the road, so Farmington is not going to be out there looking this fall. Marysville, but I wouldn't consider that to be a district that would be, and Marysville's looking right now. And And then I've got Bloomingdale, which is in West Michigan, and it's a small list. So no, nothing that I'm aware of. That's not to say that that could change, but as of right now, no, it's going to be just you.
Thanks so much, Jay. We
You bet.
appreciate your time. We'll be in touch. All right. All right, colleagues, we're now moving on to our superintendent evaluation training. We're going to welcome our old friend back, Mr. Scott Morrell. Hey, Scott.
Have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That's how we meet, is crossing paths out in the field too. So, everybody has a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yes.
It's in the. How you doing, Scott? Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to see
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes.
We're going to try to keep this under 3 hours for you. That's how the training's supposed to be, but we are not going 3 hours. So Julie, don't panic on me. We're not going 3 hours.
No.
If you look at it, it's very similar to what we've done in the past. So there's not a lot of change. So we're going to spend more time on the changes that have happened, the requirements that are in there, so. Somebody want to ask a question? Somebody started to ask a question? Yes, ma'am?
I just want to let you know I have a hard stop at 8:30 that I need to leave for, so when I get up and walk out, please don't take it personal. And
Not a problem.
I'm hopeful that I will get the
the
gist
bulk
of
of
the
it.
training, but I just wanted to make you aware, as well as the listening audience. So.
I appreciate it. So what we want to do is the PowerPoint is jump into it. And again, I'm going to highlight more so the changes in the law. There's some significant changes that are affecting us. So if you're in the PowerPoint, you go to page 3 already, the law, just so we remember.
Do we-
the PowerPoint, you should have. I gave it to you, 3 up.
Is this what you're referring to, Scott?
No,
This?
that's the evaluation.
We don't have the
Okay,
PowerPoint.
we'll get that to you then.
Okay. Do we have, we don't have it to show, okay. Is there a way to? Yeah, do we want to,
You want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, let's take a quick 5-minute recess.
And I'll dig it up.
Well, we'll get this PowerPoint.
Is it something we can share on the screen so that?
That's what.
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
That's what I'm going to get it to Megan real quick.
Okay. Everyone, Mr. Morel has found the missing PowerPoint.
Yay. And I'll make sure that I send it over to Megan in the morning so she can forward it out to you guys. So you'll have a hard copy of it. Again, we're going to spend mostly on not the process. We've been through the process multiple times. We're just going to look at the changes in the law. It still says we have to do it on an annual basis. The law does not come out what it says. It can be school year, contract year, calendar year. That's still up to the local district. We've now only got 3 ratings instead of 4. We've eliminated the highly effective, so now it is developing, needing support, or effective. And so when you look at the tool, when you pull it out, you'll see that we basically just lopped off highly effective. We didn't mash them because effective was where we were supposed to be before, so it's still where we need to be. So it's just basically took that last column off the chart. Couple things you have to do is now when you look at student growth scores, we don't, go ahead.
When it comes to those 3 ratings, what do they trigger? Is there anything in the new laws that were passed that trigger some sort of action?
Yeah, the effective 3 years in a row goes to the biannual. And if you're not effective, you're below that, then it's an improvement plan, just like we do with all the other staff. And I have slides in it for you.
Thank you.
Nope, no problem at all. The law changed on student growth. We're now at 20% instead of 40%. We changed the progress towards district goals from 10 to 15, and then the last 65% is on the 5 domains of professional objective criteria. You have to use multiple gradings. As I started to say, the student growth now, instead of us putting 75 to 90 as effective, it's locally controlled. You decide what those benchmarks are, and you'll see it in the instrument when we look at it in a minute. It's called right out, it's locally defined. They didn't define it anymore, so you get to look at it. So if your scores are up, you can put higher. If you just say 75 and you're already there, there's no incentive. Conversely, if you're a district that's struggling, and we say 75%, you're like throwing the towel in before you even get started. And so they've made that move to it also. Again, growth is same student over 2 points a time is what we're using. We're not using proficiency. One of the big things is M-STEP's no longer a required component. So we're not looking backwards, that autopsy report. We're looking forward. Makes a big difference. We can use learning objectives now, which is stuff your staff are doing every day. We're now able to utilize that for evaluation purposes. So it's the long-term academic goals that are set for the students, and if they meet them, that's that growth component. So it's one of the ways we can look at it now. So they've given us some flexibility that we didn't have before, when 50% of it had to be based on M-STEP. We don't have that component any longer. We are now required to do a written mid-year update for the superintendent. That's a new component, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. It must include any goals for the rest of the year, what your artifacts and evidence is, and if there's any training required. So you might have a new superintendent coming in, they may need training on something to help with the goal. You call it out so that we're responsible to help make sure that training happens. That's a new component this year. Another big one is the old process. You were trained to the end. Now it's every 3 years. So if you're here 3 years, you'll have to go through this training again in 3 years. They've changed that component. We have to be trained every 3 years now. Some of the rate of reliability. We have some quick exercises to go through that will show you what that looks like. Unevaluated is a new process for us. Superintendent who's been in your district less than 60 days is classified as unevaluated, so that we have time to work with them. It's kind of hard to evaluate somebody. You know, if you bring somebody in November and you do December, they'd be unevaluated. There's not enough time, enough information for us to evaluate. That's a new piece. If the superintendent results are vacated through an appeal process, which is new, then it's unevaluated. And you have to put an appeal process in the contract now for them, that if there's a situation mostly on process, they have a mechanism to go and appeal it. Before, they didn't have that protection. And so it's a protection that was put in for both of us, but for them to not have a board that goes rogue on them, and we see that unfortunately, so they're unevaluated, and if there's extenuating circumstances, but those haven't been clearly defined. If you're into that, that's when you gotta get hold of Brad and your school attorneys to see if you qualify. What you're thinking is extenuating circumstances, they haven't clarified it for us. If your superintendent's declared unevaluated, but they were in the same position in the same district, so they were superintendent last year, and it's appealed, and it's overruled, you use last year's evaluation, it carries over. So if they were effective last year, it's classified unevaluated, we list it as effective this year. It carries over, as long as they're in the same district, same position. So if you bring a new superintendent in, that wouldn't be a caveat because they're not in the same position, same district. You would literally just put unevaluated in the rep at the end of the year. Okay? Again, if they're effective or highly effective 3 years in a row, we go biannual. That's up to the board and superintendent to decide. In the off years, you just would record it as effective. So even though you're not doing an evaluation, it still gets filed as effective so that we're putting, something has to go into it. If they're developing or needing support, conversely, we have to put them on an improvement plan, and we're responsible to work with the superintendent, whether it's mentors or training or whatever that looks like. We're responsible with them to make sure that happens to get them back up to the effective range.
Question for you.
Yeah.
For that is, this is all starts brand new effective September 1st right now. It's not based upon anything past years?
January, it started on July 1.
Okay, so July 1 of this year. So
Right.
if we've had hypothetically, superintendents that were effective in the past, that's, it's July 1 is everything?
It's grandfathered. So if
Okay.
they've been highly effective the last 3 years,
Okay.
they're grandfathered in.
Got it.
That's why it says highly effective, because that's the old rating.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're grandfathered in, it's not new. What's new is, as of July 1, you have to use the new instrument with the new ratings. That's the big thing. So if you're halfway through the year, you do a December evaluation, you started the year on one tool, you're actually finishing the year on the other tool. Question? Okay. So that's, you have to do the plan. Again, you have to have, the contract and go, has to have an appeal process. MASA's put stuff out about that, Superintendent Association. We haven't really put any guidance out from MASB. That's not kind of an area that we've delved into yet. They're still trying to figure that one out. Yeah, but MASA, the Superintendent Association, does have suggested language for the superintendents and you.
So I think I just want to make the point as we go through the hiring a new superintendent process that we're going to want to make sure that we include this because I don't believe we have, that robust language in our current
No.
contract. So.
Most contracts didn't have anything about appeal, and so they were kind of stuck. Now there's a mechanism. I know some are doing arbitration. There's all kinds of mechanisms.
So all sitting suits right now are having to,
Every superintendent will now have to have this component in their contract.
suits right now are having to renegotiate their
Yep, reopen their contracts and put this in, yep. It's a requirement in the law. Of course, we still follow open meetings in FOIA, so the evaluation, when it's completed and approved, it's FOIAble at that point, so. Posting, we've talked about it in the past, as long as you use the tool like it is, you just link to our site and we give you all the posting information. We've done and I apologize to the community, but you've seen all these already, and that's why we're not gonna spend a ton of time on. What I wanna look at is, what are some of the key findings of all that research? And that, we remind you, the length of leadership of the superintendent and the board as a whole has a direct impact. Average superintendencies, Jay probably shared it with you, but it's less than 3 years right now. So that's why they say the longer they're in position working, and it's, when we're saying board, it's not each individual board member being here forever. It's the culture of the board, so as people come in and out, that culture continues long-term, has a direct effect on student achievement and student growth. Effective superintendents use stakeholders in their goal setting. You have to be aligned with what the superintendent's working on, so the 8 of you got to come together. It can't be the board's doing one thing, superintendent's over here, and staff's kind of figuring out in the middle where they're supposed to go. We have to be aligned in that leadership team, and that's where we get the success. And then the resources have to be aligned. So if you say math is a high priority, the superintendent should be able to show you in the budget where the math is and what the uses of it. It's not just the money, but what are the things that are going to happen. If they don't show you the resources, then we aren't going to be successful. So those are part of the highly effective or effective look. We still have the 5 domains, still have the professional 5. They're the same. The questions haven't changed. So we didn't, it's not a big learning curve. And that's what's nice for us. If you've been using it for any length of time, you're not having to relearn everything. It's the same, except we took the highly effective off the end. You have the instrument right in front of you. Real quick, just go to the governance board relations on section A. And you can just see it's very similar. It hasn't changed. It's got the same formatting. All the changes we've taken the last column off where it was highly effective is now gone. So that's where we're getting to. Everything else stays the same. The indicators with the standards from the professional standards for educational leaders, those goals are right there on the left. And the evidence on the bottom, the thing is we're supposed to see evidence and artifacts all year long. It's not one big data drop at the end of the year. So we need to make sure. So as you bring a new superintendent in, you're going to want to have those conversations of what does that evidence look like for you and them, so that you're coming to conclusion together collaboratively before you get to the end of the year, and then you're going, okay, what did you really want, and that kind of thing. But again, the sections are identical. They have not changed. The questions are all still the same. Makes it really convenient for us. But if you go to G, I don't know if I have it up here or not. No, maybe I do. No, I don't have it up there. G is where we do student growth and progress towards district goals. And you can see right under, it's on, I don't have it up there, I apologize. But it says right under each of those, locally defined. So at the beginning of the 12-month cycle, you, as a board and superintendent, have to define what those buckets are gonna look like. And that's local, you make that decision. So it gives you a lot more control, so that if you're in a good place, you can push further ahead versus the old artificial, we decided 75 to 89 is effective. Well, it's not necessarily for everybody. So now you get to choose. 20% is that. And then
So it's only 20%.
Yeah.
20% of the 100
That's
points.
a significant change.
It's half of what it was
Right,
before.
okay.
Yep.
And is that where we pick the 2 pieces of evidence to show that growth? Like, could we say the NWEA scores could be one component and,
Really, it's whatever your teachers are being evaluated at.
okay,
That's the same
That's the
thing you're
components,
going to
okay.
utilize. All it's going to do is roll up the teacher scores for the classroom, rolls up to the administrators, rolls up to you at the board level.
Okay.
That's what so whatever the teachers, it starts there versus top down, it goes bottom up. So the people closest to our students are deciding what those rubrics look like, what tools they're using, what's that look like. So common assessment, pre and post testing, NWEA, there's a lot of different ways now. Learning objectives, there's a lot of different
that we can
variables.
use?
So it's not 2 or 4, it's whatever you're doing with your teaching staff. That's the same tools you will use at the board level.
Okay.
And that pulls us all in the same direction. There's not, everybody has their own thing. Okay?
Scott, real quick, I know you
Yeah.
went over it earlier in the slide deck.
Yep.
Can you talk, so we went from 40 to 20%. How did the other weightings change?
The progress towards district goals went up 5.
So from 10 to 15?
Yep. And the extra 15% went on the professional standards, the 5 domains.
Split across the 5?
Right. It's still weighted, it's not equal weighting. If you look at the
See it.
slide,
Yep.
the page right before, it'll show you the, if you look at page
And what was the
F, it'll show you what the ratings are for each of the right. So you can see that governance is 20% of the 65, community relations, staff relations are 15, business 20, educational leadership is 30 of the 65 points in that section.
So that one went up, didn't it?
That all had to go up. that went up 15 points.
Which one went up 15?
Instructional leadership?
All of it went up, yeah, that whole section, and
Yeah,
then
business
the
and
weighting
finance
changed.
went up too.
Yeah,
I understand that they had to go up, just trying to figure out which ones went up.
Right.
well, all of them went up a little tick, but the, section E, the educational leadership, had the biggest jump.
Okay.
Yep. Because again, that's what they're supposed to be, is our educational leader, you know, and so that's why it was pushed up higher. Does that make sense? So then after that, you're looking at the progress towards district goals. Remember, it's progress towards, not completion of. So that's your MyKIP, that's your strategic planning, could be both. If you have 4 goals, then to get effective, you have to have progress on all 4 of those goals. Progress literally can be 10%, or it can be 50%. We want to see something on all of them, and so that's the information the superintendent's going to have to share with you through the year as you're going along in the process, okay? And then the final thing you would do is then it would roll up to the final score on the last page. And again, I'll make sure that Megan gets the Excel version, so you can just type all the numbers in and it figures all the math out for you, makes it very clean and simple. We don't usually send it out right away because it keeps changing, you know, typos and stuff, so been trying to hold off sending out too fast and have to send it 3 or 4 times, so that's the instrument. It hasn't changed much, but I'm gonna have you go back to section A for a minute. And we're gonna do a test here real quick. So if you're looking at A1, policy involvement on your evaluation, on the instrument, and you look at the evidence, the bullet points at the top are the things that you've seen as a board through the 12 months. These are the pieces of evidence that have been produced or you've seen. So you've seen superintendent attending policy meetings, proactive regarding new issues, holds meetings for adjusted and new policies, policy approval processes thorough and timely, reviews new and adjusted policies with board and admin, and has an effective dissemination of policies to staff. So if that's the rubric, that's the information you saw, go to the A1 and look across and see where it would fall. Give everybody an opportunity to look for it. Everybody had a chance to look at the evidence that you've seen and where it falls on the rubric, and where would it fall? Where would you see it fall? I'm sorry?
It'd be on 3.
Yep, effective. And that's what we're trying to show you, about 80 to 85% of the questions should be that simple. Evidence points you right in the right direction. It's when you split hairs between developing and effective, there's more discussion. If you remember, the discussion usually was more effective, highly effective, and where did it split? Well, we've taken that off the table now. So it should be that straightforward for you. If you go to, in your rubric, your instrument, and go D2, David 2, and this is the information that the superintendent shared through the year with you. No regular budget reporting is done at the board level. Board to actual reports are not readily available. Audit issues has issues and management concerns, and you're unsure of the status of finances when requested by the board. So that's the evidence you've seen through the calendar year. So go to D2 in the instrument, read the 3 columns, and see where they would fall.
Needing support.
And if, like we joke, if there was something below needing support, that's probably where it would fall, because that would put you in danger territory. But again, you look at the evidence and let it lead you to where it needs to go, versus trying to jump in the middle and synthesize everything. It makes it that short. Go to C1. We'll do one more staff input on C1.
The hard part, though, is that nobody is synthesizing all of the data to say those bullet points.
Right.
That's the hard part of it.
But
assessing
if
to
we
this.
do the process with their quarterly touch bases and the priorities, then we should be able to, because we'll see that evidence, and we'll be able to talk about it at the quarterly touch bases instead of waiting and getting that proverbial 6-inch ring binder at the end of the year. Where you're making the bullet points too is the 7 of you and the superintendent sitting together and saying, well, I saw this and I saw that. And so you would hope between the 8 of you, you would come up with those bullet points that would lead you to the spot on the rubric. So in the staff input one, C1, staff perception surveys sent out, but results are not consistently utilized to adjust practices. Staff meetings are held on a regular basis, and curriculum review process includes staff members, but their ideas are utilized inconsistently. So look at the C1 and see where it might fall.
Developing.
What did you see?
Developing.
John?
Developing.
Developing. And that's what we're trying to show you again. It should be that clear through the discussion. You may have, again, 10, 15% of them that you might be splitting, and those are the ones you're gonna have the more in-depth discussion about. And sometimes it's discussing what did we want, or did we miss what we thought we wanted, kind of thing. But 80 to 85% of them should be that clear to us, especially now with the highly effective and the nuance between the effective and highly effective gone, should make it a lot cleaner for us, and that's what we're trying to show you. That's the rater, the new piece of the rater reliability piece that is the requirement, okay? Again, mid-year, mid-year is a required piece, and I'll show you some more rules on that in a second. Done these.
Scott, has there ever been a time where that's been, like, did we have a mid-year before? Has it been gone? Is this the first time they've ever added a mid-year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've never, in the history of
No.
the evaluation
When they
cycle?
put the little process in 17, there was no mid-year. We had it in our process to have you meet on the mid-year. It was one of the ones we required, you were
Right.
basically required to do, but there was no written component to it.
Okay,
And what happens is, good boards didn't need to be told to do a written. They had those discussions. It's the boards that are struggling. It's just forcing them to do what they should have been doing
all
all
along,
along.
okay.
I will say we were a good board.
You were doing your job well. So mid-year progress report, again, we've shared one with you. It's a simple 2-page, it's fillable. This isn't supposed to be rocket science. It's not supposed to be cumbersome, but you're looking at it and say, okay, what's the goal or priority? What are we trying to accomplish? And it can be goals that you set at the beginning of the cycle and that carry over. And you're just putting what's the progress on those. And then on the backside, it's what are the goals for the rest of the year? And again, they can be continuation, what artifacts and evidence and what training. So again, it's a pretty straightforward process of the mid-year review. And that's the template we put together for the boards to make it as simple as we can for you. It's, again, the bottom line is getting the 8 of you to talk. It's not about putting words on this paper, it's about you having the conversations.
Is this one of the pieces that also would be posted then once it was signed, or is this
No,
not posted?
this-
Just the big
It's
evaluation?
done, right, the only thing, because you're not voting on this, so it's not necessarily have to be posted. The instrument is because you're voting on it. Once you
Okay.
vote on it, it becomes a public document. This isn't. Now, you have to do this in open session. So you go into closed session mid-year, talk about the job the superintendent's doing, we can do that in closed session. This piece, because it's talking about what we want done going forward, has to be an open session. So
Okay,
that's the difference. So you're gonna do it in front of your community if they're here, kind of thing. So they're gonna see it anyways. Just like the first session of the year when you're doing the goals for the year and
Okay.
expectations. It's all in front of the community and staff so that everybody knows what you're working towards,
okay.
okay? Again, nothing's been said about how filing it, so you're gonna file it in district unless somebody asks for it, the state, but right now, there's no requirement to have it sent in to anybody. That's all subject to change, as they learn some of holdups in the law for us, okay? We've done self-assessment with the superintendent, again, great tool. 2 weeks out from your evaluation, you get self-assessment, a week out, you ask any questions. So the superintendent comes to the session for their evaluation, prepared to answer your questions instead of going in and going, let me go find it real quick. We want to make sure they're successful and we're successful in getting the data. So self-assessment is a big tool. And then the final year, we're going to do, again, we're going to do consensus. We're not voting, we're not averaging. We're coming together and saying, here's what we saw, where does it fall? Just like we did a couple of minutes ago. And so the idea is we don't come in prejudged with they're effective or they're developing. Come in open-minded, you might have some ideas of things you've seen, but don't prejudge, because then you're not going to be open to the discussion with the rest of the team. And that's just human nature. So we want to be cautious. And then at the end of the year, whoever loads all your employee personnel stuff, you probably have a student data person, they would include the superintendents in the rep report with the rest of the staff's evaluations. Consensus, remember, we remind you that closed sessions behooves behest of the superintendent. We can't choose, they do. And we really shouldn't, we don't encourage you to ask the superintendent to step out of the room, because you're basically sending a clear message that this is divorce. We're starting to split. You know, and that's the message they're gonna take, whether it's right or wrong, that's the message. And it's we want them in the room. You should be able to have that discussion behind closed doors, confidentially. If something has to be said, we should be able to say it to their face, kind of thing. So that's why we ask you not to go. Superintendent can rescind closed session at any time. They have that right. If they don't like what's going on or concerned, they can make you come right back out here and do the rest of the discussion in public. They control the closed session. Again, you're going in, the tool to go in is periodic personnel evaluation. That would be the exception to the Open Meetings Act that allows us to go into closed session for the superintendent. Closed meeting, open meeting. If you look at closed meeting, the only time we can go into closed meetings when we're talking about the job the superintendent's doing. Not what we want, what we hope for, that's all done in open session. So that's why we say in the mid-year, you're going to have a discussion of what he's done or she's done, but then you come back out in open session and have the discussion of, okay, what do we want to see the rest of the year? Okay, so everything else we do has to be an open session, okay? We don't vote in closed session. Again, consensus, I can live with it. Is this the question you want to fall on your sword here, or can we find mutual term? And again, most boards struggled, again, effective and highly effective versus minimally effective and effective. Most boards struggle with that higher level, and that's off the table now for us. We talked about averaging. Excel, we've said the Excel is a great way to do it. You can put comments on there. MASB's recommendation is don't. Because once you approve it, that's in there, and people may not have the context. You may put something and they don't know what was said before and after it in closed session, you just put that comment, and now it's out there with no context. And so we highly, highly encourage you to stay away from putting comments on there, but you are able to do it. One new thing is that now when you come out of closed session, instead of announcing the score, you come out and you ask for a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation as presented or completed in closed session. Once you approve it, then you announce the score. And the reason is we've had some boards come out and vote, say they're effective, come out and vote, and they vote it down. And so it's not passed. So now they gotta go back into closed session. Now they come back out and say they're minimally effective. And now you've got a big issue, because now you've said two different things. Why did you change to go, kind of think what happens is they prejudge, they wanted to end here. They didn't get there, so the board just threw their hand up in closed session, came out. And so now we're saying no, come out, approve it, and then announce what the final result is, so that if it got voted down, we're not in that quagmire. Yeah, it's the fun. We call that job security for us, because there's some boards that are quite, kind of crazy out there for us. And then the board superintendent would, board president superintendent would work on a joint statement to the community and the staff of what the results are and what you've seen. Again, by June 30th, it has to go in the REP, the Registry of Educational Personnel, and then you have the opportunity to do your renewal, non-renewal. It's nice doing it in December, because now that doesn't have to be done till the end of March. So you've got a window to have those discussions, where when we used to do it in March, you could be March 25th doing the evaluation, you got 5 days to, you know, open the contract and change it if you're gonna make any changes, because they had to be notified by 90 days out. So this helps. Plus, when new board members come on, they're setting the tone at the beginning, and they're working together with you and the superintendent for 12 months before they're evaluating. No system, you did it in March, 6 weeks on the board, and you're starting to evaluate the superintendent, and you're using everything you heard before, and not just what you know on the board. Now you're on the board for 12 months, okay? At the beginning of the cycle, these are the things that you should have, and we've shared this with you before. The biggest thing is having the copy of the instrument. You should have that all year long, every time you meet. As you see things, put Post-its on your rubric. Say, hey, I saw this, or I didn't, I'm looking for that, so that you have that model going, because we can't remember 12 months before. And so by having it and talking about it on a regular basis and having an instrument in front of us periodically allows us to record that stuff as we go forward. The other big one would be the superintendent's contract dealing with evaluation. A lot of contracts still say we evaluate the superintendent in March. You know, so you're locked in. It's like, no, it was anytime. So we trying to say they're evaluated on an annual basis is what the contract should say. And that way you could do it anywhere in that 12-month continuum versus March, like we used to. So superintendents that have been in their position for quite a while have that, or your policy may have that. So you got to double check your policy. That's why we put that on there, any board policies relating to it, just to make sure we've got it all in sync with each other. Okay? We talked about the bidding and cycle, January. You're setting expectations. What do you want to see for the year? What's our priorities? What's our goals? We don't need to set extra goals. It's already there. It's just what do we want to focus on? Between the 5 domains, 35 questions, student growth, and progress towards district goals, there's plenty to evaluate the superintendent on and have them focused on without burdening everybody in the organization. Because remember, anything we set for the superintendent burdens your whole staff because it rolls out from there. So we want to make sure we're cautious there. Touch base, informal, usually in April, quick discussion, just where we're at, where we're going. If you set priorities, that's usually what we discuss, and any other areas you want to ask about. And then mid-year is the formal one. Usually it's right after school ends in June. That's the one you have to do the written for. It's the mid-year. If you're doing a July to June, then December would be your mid-year. It's not exactly 6 months. It's somewhere right in the middle, but it's not classified. So if you don't do it January 1st and do it August 1st or July 1st, you're not going to get in trouble for it. They just look somewhere in the middle of the year. They want you to have that discussion as a board. And then we come into the August one. And again, we're looking at enrollment, finance projections, because we've worked for a couple of months. We got some better idea where we're at. Any new curriculum that you've put in, what's it looking like? Are we ready, prepared? And usually we talk about facilities, because most of the work you do in your facilities are over the summer. And so we like to update that. And then you get into the formal evaluation, again, sometime between the 2 holidays. You're going section by section. Again, you're looking for that consensus as a group. And it should be pretty clear. You know, we've had some discussions on some, and that's fine. They shouldn't be rote that every question is just quick and easy. But the idea is to dispense with the ones that we all agree on and spend our time on the ones that need that discussion. versus everyone. It should only take 60 to 90 minutes to do the eval. And boards that are doing 3 and 4 hours, it's because they haven't done their homework ahead of time, haven't prepared all year, haven't done their touch bases. And so now the discussion starts with, what do we want? Before we can decide, did the superintendent give us what we wanted? Or we'll hear, I wanted this, and it's like, you gotta stop that whole thing. No, what do we want? And so that's what eats some of that time up as you go forward. And then ongoing support. You guys use, I facilitated the last couple for you. However you want to do it, facilitation, doing it yourself. MASB is to help you, we joke. Just like Jay was saying, call us. That's what we're here for. We want to help you through this process. It's not supposed to be cumbersome. It's supposed to be continuous improvement to help the district move forward. And so we're here to help you. If you got questions, I know we went through the presentation pretty quick, but again, the big changes are 20% student growth, mid-year review, an appeal process, and highly effectives off the table. That's the takeaway. Okay? Questions for me?
Questions we have from Mr. Morrell? And Patricia?
Who set up the changes? I mean, who started the whole process? Was that MASB with the politicians, or what?
No.
Who's behind it?
Different lobbying groups in the state, different parts of it. MASB's position it was we wanted some student growth. We didn't like the 40%, so our board of directors pushed for the 20%. There's some other groups pushing for 40, other groups pushing for 0.
Just because, it's very difficult, because sometimes it isn't fair for the district to meet this goal or that goal. It isn't as consistent.
Right.
And it just seems like it's people that sometimes don't know what they're doing. Say, hey, you should do this, you should do it. Like this is mandatory training.
Right.
I have to do this, otherwise
Yep.
I don't know what police are gonna come in,
Yeah.
ticket me for not having this
Exactly.
training, but it's a mandatory training with,
Going to training jail.
yeah, it's.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just kind of irritates me
Exactly.
sometimes. It's mandatory, you must follow your flag.
Well, we weren't, I can tell you from our point, giving us 90 days to get all the boards trained
Yeah.
was a tough, we didn't even have the instrument finished till mid-June. We were still putting the presentation together at the end of June. So then we only had 90 days to get everybody trained. And so we're with you guys.
Okay, that's what I want to blame it on someone.
It was the state legislature, correct?
Legislature, yeah, is the one who made the final
And then they gave
decisions.
with the interest, with the lobbyists, and then they gave the 90 days to train all the board members.
Right. Yep. And that's just the normal sequence for us. It's like, here you go, gotta get trained. The big thing about not getting trained, though, is it'll affect you on that appeal, because it opens the appeal up very easily. If somebody's not gone through the training and valued superintendent, they can use that as an easy way to appeal and say, you didn't go through the training, therefore it's an invalid evaluation. So that's why we tell boards.
The superintendent didn't show up for 2 weeks. That's why I
Well,
marked them down.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
simple thing, but
Exactly.
they'll get marked down because I didn't go to the training.
And you understand, when when you put a superintendent on, they're gonna have to go through this training. Because the training's not only for you, it's for them too. So, yeah, or any new board members in January, if somebody rotates in, they've gotta be trained. It's not a board training, it's a board member training. And
Do
it's
they
good
have
for
to do
3
the
years.
training with us?
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, do they have to do the training with us?
No, they can do it, virtually. We have a lot of virtual sessions coming, so now you don't have to go through it again.
What does the appeal process look like?
It's varying by district. Some districts are putting it in where they can appeal back to the board and have the board reconsider. And then from the board, it could go to mediation or.
So it's up to us?
You and the superintendent come up with that plan to put it, and it's gotta be in their contract. It's gotta be spelled out. There's gotta be some appeal process. That's where MASA is doing a lot of that work to help guide boards, and obviously your school attorneys can help you with that. We're trying to stay out of that piece of it.
It seems like we should figure out that contract language fairly quickly, though. Is there anyone that has figured it out that,
Well, MASA, the Superintendent's Association's got sample contract.
okay,
So they would be the first person I would reach out to. You can reach
Okay.
out to Jay, because Jay works with them, you know, they're in the same building, so he's got some. They haven't given us any language. We're trying to stay out of the legal piece of it for contract language, and then MASB said to do this, and it's like,
Right.
no. So, but some are doing arbitration where you have, you know, it goes to a neutral third party. There's all different ways to do it. It's just a decision the board and superintendent have to make. Hopefully, we never need it. Top-end boards, good boards won't need it. The boards, unfortunately, some of the ones I work with, you can see it going to arbitration every year, just because the way the board's 4-3-3-4 kind of thing, and won't do the process with fidelity kind of thing, so. Okay? Any other questions?
In terms of process and rhythm, it seems to more or less map onto what we've been doing anyway, but we've got a couple other ways to sort of document.
That's all it is. Scoring, appeal, and the mid-year is really all it's gonna affect you guys, because you're already doing the rest of it. Nothing, we didn't change any of it. If you look at the PowerPoint and pulled out the one from 5 years ago, there's not a lot of change. It's just the new components of the law that changed. We're trying to keep it, our philosophy, like the old tool, we didn't change questions. They stayed the same. We want consistency so that you know what you're working towards. And so that's what we did when we did this one, is to keep it as similar as it was before and not make, you know, gut all the questions and start all over. You guys are used to it. We know what we're looking for. We know the discussions. It makes it a lot better. Again, it's not the scoring. It's the discussion that drives this. It's the 8 of you having those discussions on a regular basis. That really is what this is about, continuous improvement. Okay?
Alex, any comments or questions for Mr. Morrell?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
Scott.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, but I wouldn't stay here 3 hours.
No, we've been pretty good about keeping it under 2 hours, an hour and a half when we have to. And depending upon, you know, if I know the board, we can do it this quick, because I know what you know already. So, again, if you got questions as you get going forward, or when your new superintendent comes on, by all means, reach out. We'll be happy to help you through that.
Scott, you've always been a great partner for us. So
I'm sorry?
I said you've always been a great partner to us, so
I
thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, if you're
Thanks,
done
Scott.
with me, I'm gonna slide out.
Okay.
Have a great drive.
Thank you. See you guys soon.
See you soon. All right. Colleagues, we're now going to move on to public comments on non-action items. Got a couple green cards here. Before we get started here, everyone please be reminded that comments are limited to 3 minutes in duration. Member Patricia is our timekeeper. Members of the public are invited to share comments. However, this is not intended to be a time for questions and answers. And lastly, participants may speak only once on the same topic and, of course, are asked to avoid statements that are personally directed, abusive, or obscene. So I have a green card here for Mr. Frank Lombardi. Mr. Lombardi, why don't you come right down here? That way we'll pick you up on the broadcast.
Facing the crowd or facing you guys?
Right over there near the, at the podium, if you don't mind. Yep.
Over there with the microphone and the podium.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mr. Lombardi.
Not the most articulate person, but I think I'm going to speak for everyone here. We all came here for the same reason. We've had a long night. I think we all feel very unappreciated. At least I do. I work very hard. I work 5 12s a week. And I just want to value myself more, knowing I can work this job my whole career and make more money. You know what I mean? Because I know usually jobs you can be a little bit more confident in. I grew up in Waterford. My daughter goes here, and I'm starting to not be very happy with it as an employee. Good schools. All these people, I wish they would have got you guys do a really good job, you know. But we didn't hear that today. And you guys talked about that a lot, and we could all use an extra 10. Or an extra $1 an hour even. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I just think we all deserve, maybe from each one of you, one reason why we don't deserve much. That's all I got.
right, Ms. Robin McGregor, please.
At your last meeting, you talked about a deficit in the fund balance. I was here and on that board when we were at 4 mil. It was a scary time. A lot of these people took cuts. That's why I didn't run for school board again and ran for the House seat, because teachers, staff, and everybody that touches our school needs to know that they're appreciated. As you're doing your superintendent's evaluation, we've had 4 superintendents in the last 12 years. One of the things that he talked about was the rate. One of the things that I knew when I was here, that they always went above their rate. It's great that the superintendent always feels that they need to be above that. But that evaluation starts with them. They are the boots on the ground. They're the ones that make the difference. From your janitors, to your secretary at the schools, to the teacher, the parapro, each cog in your wheel makes this community better. So please, as you're doing our new superintendent, as you have to look at your deficit in your fund balance, please put this group first, because these are the people that make our school district great. They're the ones that help hold us accountable and help our children be the best people they can be. Because if we don't have a great school system and public education, we don't have a great country. They make it happen. So thank you.
Ms. Megan Young, please.
Hello. I would like to piggyback off the gentleman that spoke earlier that would say that we do feel all underappreciated. It's hard for us to sit here for 2 hours and listen to a meeting talking about a new superintendent that we all know that you all pay above the average. And it's crazy to us to think that we are the people that make a difference in the schools every day. We are the silent workers that you do not notice. And we're always, we always seem to be put on the back burner and then there's just never enough money for us. But we show up every day and we help every child. We are the reason that these people stay. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, but I would like to say that most lunch ladies here have 2 jobs. We have to work 2 jobs. People at McDonald's make more money than we do. And we don't do this because we do this for the kids. I could go out and I could make more money any day, but I stay because I love my job, I love my boss, I love the kids, and I love the school. I do feel I should be paid more. So Patricia, I have your grandson at my school, and you could say the words honey bunny to him when you go home, and you will see this kid light up, and it's just a lunchroom that they love. They love to come to. It's fun. It's a great experience. We teach them stuff, and I just don't understand why we are never worthy of a raise. I mean, it seems like on this board everybody's taken care of. It seems like in the higher staff everybody is taken care of, but we're not. The people that make the difference. And what would happen if everybody just showed up and did not go to work one day? What would you do without us? So when I worked at Capitol Grill, I had a wonderful manager that gave us a story one time, and he said, so in the business, where do you think the most important person is? Is it the manager? Is it the superintendent? Because it's not. It's going to be the dishwasher. Your dishwasher is the one that makes the whole business run. Without him, we couldn't do it. He is the staple to the foundation. So I don't understand why we are the staple to your foundation. Why are we not being taken care of? It's sad. We are here every day for these kids. Torres always writes me back. Whenever I write you with a problem, you are more than, I love it. Thank you for always communicating back with me. Wagner, I feel really, I am.
Ms. Young, one of our
Okay,
norms here.
well, it is upsetting when I do reach out and you don't get heard back because we are people, we pay taxes, and this is why we're here. So, but all in all, I would like to say that I really hope that you go home and you think tonight of what you have, because look at all the ladies and gentlemen out here. We deserve more that we are getting. We are the staples to your foundation. It is not the superintendent, it's us.
Ms. Lori Tunick.
Good evening. My name is Lori Tunick, and I represent all of the MEA groups here in Waterford. I come to you this evening to voice my concerns about the way negotiations have stalled for all units. Waterford does not have a structural deficit. Deficit means more money is going out than coming in. If you look at the budget, Waterford is not budgeting for a structural deficit. What the business office is doing is a reduction in expenditures because of the one-time ESSER money is gone. You are adding and increasing to the fund balance. That cannot be a deficit. You have money to bargain. The district is just choosing to not invest in its employees. You have one MEA group currently working without a contract. You have 3 other MEA groups who are waiting for some good faith bargaining from the district. As I refuse to bargain against myself, you leave us no choice but to wait for a state mediator to come in and attempt to assist all of the bargains. The district was willing to discuss potential money for special ed teachers, but no one else. Special ed funding has gone up, therefore every $1 received in special ed funding is $1 less you have to spend from general ed to cover special ed costs. That is money to bargain with. The district repeatedly has told us at the table they want to be equitable to staff. However, in practice, they are not. They are willing to offer money to hard-to-fill positions, but not everyone. The district has asked the unions to divide themselves, and we will not. The employees of Waterford have carried the business office burden enough. Surrounding districts pay more. If you want the employees to stay here, you must pay them to stay here. Asking roughly 75% of your Waterford MEA employees to not have a pay increase is not realistic. No employee owes Waterford anything. So now publicly, I say to your employees, the district is not willing to pay you more for the hard work you do for the students of Waterford. Sadly and reluctantly, I have to encourage you to look at other districts. I have said to your HR director over and over, this is a job, it's not a jail. If you can find work with a district who's willing to pay you more, do it.
Mary Craig.
And on that note, I'm going to try not to cry because I have spent 40 years in this place, investing my entire life for Waterford kids. Now I'm going to invest it in all of them. I brought just a few friends with me tonight. There were many more. Many of these people spent their day working in their classroom on their own time because it's not paid time yet. Teachers that have had to move buildings because we had to cut in the buildings, so class sizes are going to go up. So they're moving to one school to another. Believe me, in 7 years, I've done 4 schools in this district, 8 teaching assignments. It's not an easy thing. Yeah, but you know, you can just do that. So my name is Mary Crate. I'm here tonight representing 530 Waterford staff members. Our salary schedule expired June 30th. We were asked to wait until July 1st after the state and local budgets were in place to begin bargaining. At the end of July, with 3.5 weeks left before we were supposed to hit the classroom doors, we began bargaining in good faith. We're angry, we're disappointed. Yeah, other than steps, which now, thanks to Congress, is the law. You have to give our people steps. We were told there's no money. No money? Then please tell me, how did the district manage to hire 2 new administrators, 2 assistant athletic directors? That added to your structural deficit. They're not going away. Don't kill a mascot, Mary, I forgot, because athletics are more important than educating the kids? No way, no possible way. If we have continued to bargain in good faith, willing to compromise, we've offered off-schedule payments. That doesn't add to your structural deficit. Almost 60% of our group are on the top step. No money, sorry. To honor the 150 of us that have stayed with this district over 20 years, many that are now over 30 years, we asked for an increase in longevity pay. Sorry, no money for that either. We know tough times. In 2013-14, we had $1.4 million in the fund balance. $1.4 million. Today, we have over $18 million. We went 6 years with no steps, no salary increases, saying, we're going to stand here, we're going to do this for our kids. We've come a long way under Scott Lindbergh, and let me tell you, that new superintendent has got big shoes to fill. We cannot go backwards. You can't solve your budget crisis, your budget issues can't be on the backs of the frontline employees. It's not good for kids. Our students matter, and so do we. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone who spoke, for everyone who showed up this evening. Colleagues, Board of Ed reports. Are there any Board of Ed reports this evening? Okay, excellent. Well, colleagues, seeing no further business, tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Megan, if you want to get a hold of me, it's best to do it through my district email, not through Facebook. Okay, so I'm not going to respond.